The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning while Commander Alice Bennett was drinking her coffee in the observation deck of the Starweaver. The massive Earth Defense Force vessel hung in high orbit above Mars, its sleek hull reflecting the distant sunlight. She nearly spilled her drink when she saw the security clearance level on the transmission. Priority 1 message from Earth Command. The ship's AI announced, its voice echoing through the empty observation deck. Marked urgent and eyes only, Commander. Alice straightened her uniform and placed her coffee mug on the nearby table. Display it, she ordered, her heart beating faster. Priority 1 messages usually meant trouble. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Admiral Phillips's weathered face. Commander Bennett, I hope I didn't wake you, he said, though they both knew Mars time meant she'd been up for hours. No, sir, I was reviewing our patrol schedules, she lied smoothly, not mentioning the coffee break. Good, because what I'm about to tell you changes everything. The Admiral paused, his expression serious. We've been contacted by the Galactic Council. Alice felt her mouth go dry. Everyone knew about the Council. 27 spacefaring civilizations that govern most of known space. They had watched humanity for decades, never interfering, never acknowledging Earth's attempts at communication. Until now. They finally decided to acknowledge us, she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. More than that. They've invited us to their annual gathering. The Admiral's image leaned forward. And you, Commander Bennett, will lead our delegation. Alice sat down hard in her chair. The Starweaver wasn't just any ship. It was humanity's newest and most advanced vessel, but it was still primitive compared to Council technology. Sir, with all due respect, why me? Because you've got something most of our other commanders don't. You understand people. Not just humans, but the concept of different cultures. The Admiral smiled slightly. Plus, the Starweaver is our most impressive ship, and we need to make an impression. Over the next hour, Alice learned the details. The Council was meeting in 3 Earth weeks at their headquarters on Centauri Prime. They would be evaluating humanity's potential membership, our technological progress, and our cultural stability, whatever that meant. As soon as the Admiral's transmission ended, Alice called her senior staff to the bridge. They filtered in quickly, Chief Diplomat Christopher Rogers looking perfectly pressed despite the early hour, Lieutenant John Carter with his tactical displays already running, and Engineer Laura Mitchell carrying her ever-present tablet of ship diagnostics. Ladies and gentlemen, Alice began, looking at each of them in turn, we've just been given the most important mission in human history. She laid out the situation, watching their expressions change from surprise to excitement to concern. Christopher Rogers was the first to speak up. Commander, the diplomatic implications are staggering, he said, running a hand through his graying hair. We'll need to prepare for every possible cultural taboo, every potential misunderstanding. Agreed. Alice nodded. And that's why we're bringing our best. Laura, I need the Starweaver looking better than she's ever looked. John, study every scrap of data we have on Council species body language and defensive postures. We can't afford to accidentally threaten anyone. As her team began their preparations, reports came in from Earth. The Arctians, a crystalline species known for their conservative views, had formally protested humanity's invitation. They cited our aggressive expansion and warlike tendencies as reasons to keep Earth isolated. The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. The Starweaver's crew drilled constantly, practicing everything from formal greetings to emergency protocols. Christopher Rogers ran cultural sensitivity workshops, teaching the crew about the known Council species and their customs. Alice spent her evenings studying Council history, learning about the complex web of alliances and ancient traditions that governed galactic politics. The more she learned, the more she worried. Humanity was so young compared to these civilizations. Some had been spacefaring when Earth's first cities were being built. 1 week before their departure, Alice found herself back in the observation deck, staring at Mars' red surface below. The door hissed open, and Christopher Rogers joined her. "Trouble sleeping, Commander?" he asked, standing beside her at the window. "Just thinking," she replied. "We're about to represent our entire species to beings who've been traveling between stars since before we invented the wheel. How do we prove we belong there?" Christopher was quiet for a moment. "Maybe we don't need to prove we belong," he said finally. "Maybe we just need to show them who we are. The good and the bad, the elegant and the messy parts of humanity." Alice considered this. Humanity had achieved so much in so little time. From first flight to faster-than-light travel in less than 3 centuries. We'd survived wars, environmental disasters, and our own worst impulses to reach the stars. "Send a message to Earth Command," she said suddenly. "I want our complete cultural database loaded into the Starweaver's memory banks before we leave. Music, art, dance, military traditions. Everything. Everything." Christopher raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot of data. Any particular reason?" Alice smiled, watching as the first rays of sunlight crept over Mars' horizon. "Let's just say I have a feeling we might need to remind the Council that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our diplomacy." "Oh." Christopher looked curious. "And what would that be?" "Our ability to surprise everyone, including ourselves." Alice turned away from the window. "Have the crew prepare for departure in 6 days. We got a lot of work to do before we show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of." As she walked back to her quarters, Alice felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but also a growing sense of excitement. The Galactic Council thought they were just evaluating another young species. They had no idea what they were about to witness. In the following days, the Starweaver became a hive of activity. Laura Mitchell's engineering teams polished every surface until the ship gleamed. John Carter ran combat drills, ensuring the crew could demonstrate perfect discipline. The cultural database arrived from Earth, petabytes of human history and achievement, ready to be called upon if needed. Finally, on departure day, Alice stood on her bridge, looking at her crew. They were ready. They were nervous, but they were ready. "Set course for Centauri Prime," she ordered, settling into her command chair. "Let's go make history." The Starweaver's engines hummed to life, and the massive ship turned gracefully away from Mars. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Alice thought about all the species waiting at the Council. They expected a primitive, aggressive species barely out of its cradle. What they were going to get was something else entirely. Something uniquely human. The stars blurred around them as the Starweaver made its jump, carrying humanity's representatives toward their date with destiny. The journey to prove humanity's worth to the Galactic Council had begun, and Commander Alice Bennett intended to make it one the galaxy would never forget. The Starweaver dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Centauri system. Through the main viewport, Ambassador Mary Foster got her first look at the famous Council headquarters. The space station was enormous, a gleaming structure that looked like a giant snowflake made of crystal and light. "It's beautiful," she whispered, standing next to Commander Bennett on the bridge. "And intimidating," Commander Bennett added quietly. "Look at the size of those defense platforms." Hidden among the sparkle of the station were weapon systems more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. The message was clear. The Council was peaceful, but very well protected. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. "Approaching vessel Starweaver." A melodious voice said in perfect English, "You are cleared for docking at Bay 17. Please follow the guidance lights." As they approached the station, the crew could see other ships already docked. There were vessels that looked like giant sea creatures, others that seemed to be made of pure energy, and some that bent the eye in strange ways. "Remember, everyone," Christopher Rogers said to the gathered delegation, "keep your translator implants active at all times. And try not to stare at the Zetkari. They consider direct eye contact with all 4 eyes at once to be very rude." The Starweaver docked with a gentle bump. Laura Mitchell's engineering work paid off. The connection was perfect on the first try. As the delegation prepared to disembark, Commander Bennett looked at her team one last time. "Whatever happens in there," she said, "remember that we represent not just Earth, but every human who has ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of this moment." The airlock cycled open, revealing a corridor that seemed to be made of flowing light. A tall figure waited for them. An Arxian diplomat, their crystalline body reflecting rainbow patterns on the walls. "Welcome to Centauri Prime," the Arxian said, their voice like chimes in the wind. "I am first speaker Zilix. I trust your journey was adequate." Ambassador Foster stepped forward, bowing at exactly the correct angle they had practiced. "The journey was excellent, first speaker. We are honored by your welcome." The Arxian's colors shifted slightly, a sign of surprise at the proper greeting. "Follow me. The council is waiting." As they walked through the station's corridors, the human delegation saw wonders they had only read about. Gravity changed direction smoothly as they moved, letting other species walk on what humans would consider walls or ceilings. Holographic signs floated in the air, automatically translating themselves for each passing species. Lieutenant John Carter kept careful notes on his tablet, marking the locations of security checkpoints and defense systems. Most were so advanced they were almost invisible, but his trained eye caught subtle signs. They passed other delegations in the halls. Some nodded in greeting, others pulled back in surprise at seeing humans. A group of Zetkari floated by, their tentacles glowing with patterns of light that the translators said meant curiosity and concern. Finally, they'd reached massive doors that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. First Speaker Zilix turned to face them. Beyond these doors is the council chamber. All 27 current member species are gathered. Try not to embarrass yourselves. With that encouraging message, they waved a crystalline hand, and the doors flowed open. The chamber was bigger than any room humans had ever built. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. Rings of platforms floated at different heights, each holding representatives from different worlds. The air was filled with a soft hum of multiple translation fields working together. Announcing the delegation from Sol 3, a voice echoed through the chamber. Species designation: human. As they walked to their assigned platform, Ambassador Foster noticed the subtle reactions. Some species leaned forward with interest. Others shifted away slightly. The Arxians' colors darkened, a sign of disapproval. Their platform rose smoothly into position, giving them a view of the entire chamber. Commander Bennett felt her heart racing, but kept her expression calm. This was what they had prepared for. The council leader, a being of pure energy contained in an elegant mechanical frame, spoke first. "Representatives of humanity, you stand before the Galactic Council. Your species has advanced quickly, some would say too quickly. You have moved from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in less than 3 centuries. Murmurs ran through the chamber. A Zetkari representative floated forward, their tentacles pulsing with light. "Such rapid advancement concerns us," they said. "History shows that species who advance too quickly often lack the wisdom to use their power responsibly." Ambassador Foster stepped forward to respond, but before she could speak, another voice cut through the chamber. "They are warriors," a deep voice rumbled. A massive figure emerged from the shadows of a higher platform. A Krath, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. I have studied their history. They have fought countless wars among themselves. The chamber erupted in concerned whispers. Commander Bennett felt the situation slipping away from them. This was what they had feared, being judged before they could prove themselves. Then Lieutenant John Carter had an idea. He quickly whispered to Commander Bennett, who listened with growing interest. She nodded and stepped forward. "Honored Council," she said, her voice clear and strong. "You speak of our wars, our rapid advancement, our potential for violence. These things are true, but they are not the whole truth." She paused, looking around the chamber. "We request the right of cultural demonstration." The chamber went silent. The right of cultural demonstration was an ancient tradition, rarely invoked. It allowed new species to show something unique about their culture to the Council. The Council leader's energy form flickered with interest. The right is granted. What do you wish to demonstrate? Commander Bennett smiled slightly. We will show you a human war dance. The translator fields crackled as they tried to convey the concept. Several species shifted uncomfortably. The Arxians' colors began flashing in alarm. A war dance, the Council leader asked. You wish to perform a demonstration of combat in these sacred chambers. Not combat, Ambassador Foster quickly added, catching on to the commander's plan. Art, culture, history, all combined in a display of what humanity truly is. The Council leader consulted quietly with other members. Finally, they spoke again. Very well. You have one planetary rotation to prepare your demonstration. Choose wisely. The right of cultural demonstration can only be invoked once. As the human delegation left the chamber, Christopher Rogers caught up with Commander Bennett. A war dance. Are you sure about this? Commander Bennett nodded. They think they know what humanity is. They've read our history, studied our wars, judged our progress. Now it's time to show them something they've never seen before. She tapped her communicator. Laura, I need you to start working on something. How good are our holographic projectors? Back on the Starweaver, the crew began preparations for a performance that would either earn humanity's place among the stars or confirm every fear the Council had about their species. The next day would change everything. They just had to get it right. Back on the Starweaver, Commander Alice Bennett called an emergency meeting in the ship's main briefing room. The clock was ticking. They had less than 20 hours to prepare a performance that would change the Council's view of humanity. All right, Daniel Wright, she said to the ship's cultural officer, who sat surrounded by holographic displays. Tell me everything you know about war dances. Daniel's eyes lit up with excitement. His love for human traditions was well known among the crew. War dances appear in almost every human culture, he explained, pulling up images in the air. The Maori haka, Native American ghost dances, ancient Greek Pyrrhic dances, Scottish sword dances, they're all part of our heritage. Laura Mitchell raised her hand. Commander, I've been studying the station's holographic systems. They're far more advanced than ours, but I think I can interface with them. We could create quite a show. Good. Alice nodded. But we need more than just special effects. We need to show them who we really are. Lieutenant John Carter had been quiet, watching the historical footage Daniel was showing. What if we combined everything? He suggested. Not just war dances, but our whole military tradition. Precision drills, ceremonial guards, modern space combat movements, all of it together. The room fell silent as they considered this idea. Ambassador Mary Foster was the first to speak. The Council sees us as primitive and dangerous. But what if we showed them how we've transformed our warrior traditions into art? Commander Bennett stood up and walked to the center of the room. Daniel, how quickly can you teach basic haka movements to the crew? The basics? A few hours. But Commander, traditionally the haka is performed by. We're going to change tradition, she interrupted, just like humanity always has. Laura, I want you working with Daniel. Every movement we make should have matching holographic effects. John, pick our best drill team members. We need perfect precision. Over the next few hours, the Starweaver became a center of controlled chaos. In the cargo bay, now cleared for practice, Daniel Wright taught groups of crew members the basic moves of various war dances. The sound of boots stomping and voices chanting echoed through the ship's corridors. Laura Mitchell worked frantically at her console, programming holographic effects that would complement each movement. She created swirling patterns of light that would follow the dancers' hands, ghostly images of ancient warriors that would mirror their movements. In another part of the ship, John Carter drilled his chosen team members until their movements were perfectly synchronized. Ambassador Foster watched all of this while composing a speech that would help the Council understand what they were about to witness. 6 hours before their scheduled performance, Commander Bennett called everyone together for the first full rehearsal. The cargo bay had been marked with positions, and Laura's holographic systems were ready for testing. "Remember," Alice told her crew, "this isn't just about looking impressive. Every movement tells a story. We're showing them how humanity has grown, how we've taken our fighting spirit and turned it into something more." The rehearsal began. It started with traditional military drill movements, precise and controlled. Then, as the rhythm changed, elements of various war dances began to blend in. The straight lines of the formation broke and reformed into new patterns. Voices rose in ancient chants, while feet stomped in modern military precision. Laura's holograms worked perfectly, creating a display that showed the history behind each movement. When the crew performed movements from the haka, ghostly images of Maori warriors appeared beside them. As they shifted into sword dance formations, the glowing forms of Scottish Highlanders danced with them. "This is either going to amaze them or terrify them," Christopher Rogers said, watching from the side. "Maybe both," Ambassador Foster replied. "And maybe that's exactly what we need." They ran through the performance 3 more times, perfecting every detail. The crew learned to move as one, their voices joining in a powerful chorus that mixed traditional war cries with modern military cadences. Laura adjusted her holograms until they flowed seamlessly with the movements. In the final hour before their performance, Commander Bennett gathered everyone for one last briefing. The crew was tired from practicing, but their eyes were bright with excitement. "What we're about to do has never been done before," she told them. "We're taking thousands of years of human tradition and transforming it into something new. The Council thinks they know what humanity is. A young, aggressive species that learned to travel faster than light." She looked around at her crew, seeing determination in their faces. "We're going to show them that we're more than that. We're going to show them that humans can take the fiercest parts of our nature and turn them into art. That we can honor our warrior past while building a peaceful future." Ambassador Foster stepped forward. "The Council chamber's gravity can be adjusted. I've arranged for us to perform on multiple levels, with some of us appearing to dance on the walls and ceiling. Laura's holograms will make it look like we're moving through space itself." As the crew made their final preparations, Dangle Wright approached Commander Bennett. "I've been studying Council records," he said. "No species has ever done anything like this for their cultural demonstration. Most just show artwork or play music." "Then we'll be the first," Alice replied. "Humanity has always been good at being first." The call came from the Council chamber. It was time. As the crew lined up to leave the ship, Commander Bennett felt a strange calm settle over her. They were about to do something unprecedented, combining ancient traditions with modern technology in ways their ancestors could never have imagined. "One last thing," she told her crew. "Whatever happens in there, remember, we're not just performing a dance. We're showing them humanity's heart, our strength, our creativity, our ability to transform and grow. Let's show them who we really are." The crew of the Starweaver marched out of their ship, heads held high. They were about to either earn humanity's place among the stars or confirm every fear the Council had about their species. But as they walked through the crystal corridors of the station, their footsteps falling in perfect unison, none of them doubted their choice. They were going to give the Galactic Council a performance they would never forget. The Council chamber looked different now. The floating platforms had been moved to create a vast open space in the center. Commander Alice Bennett stood with her crew at the main entrance, waiting for their signal to begin. The air felt heavy with anticipation. Ambassador Mary Foster stepped forward first, her voice clear and strong as it echoed through the chamber. "Honored Council, we present to you a demonstration of humanity's warrior spirit, not as a threat, but as art. What you will witness is the story of how we transformed our fighting nature into something beautiful." The lights in the chamber dimmed. Laura Mitchell, hidden in a control room, activated her holographic systems. The vast space filled with a soft blue light, like an earth dawn. The performance began quietly. 20 crew members marched into the chamber in perfect formation, their boots clicking softly on the crystal floor. The sound echoed through the silent space as alien representatives watched from their platforms. Suddenly, the formation split apart like a blooming flower. Laura's holograms created the image of an ancient battlefield around them. The crew began moving through the positions of a traditional sword dance, but with empty hands. Ghostly weapons of light appeared in their grip, telling the story of humanity's warrior past. The Arxians' crystalline bodies flickered with nervous light. The Zetkary's tentacles waved in patterns that showed both fear and fascination. But no one could look away. The tempo increased. The human dancers moved faster, their formation shifting from ancient battle lines to modern military precision drills. Laura's holograms kept pace, showing the evolution of human combat through the ages. Stone spears became swords, became rifles, became energy weapons, all created in flowing light. Then came the haka. The crew's voices rose as one, their faces fierce as they performed the traditional movements. But this was a haka unlike any ever performed on Earth. As they stamped and shouted, some dancers began to rise from the floor, held up by the station's gravity controls. The chamber filled with layers of dancers, some performing on the walls, others seemingly floating in space. Laura's holograms created the illusion of stars and planets moving around them, making it appear as if the humans were dancing through the cosmos itself. K-mate, ka-mate, K-ora, ka-ora. The ancient words of the haka thundered through the chamber, the translation fields struggling to convey their deep meaning to the alien audience. But the power of the performance needed no translation. Commander Bennett, dancing in the center of the formation, saw the council leader lean forward, their energy form pulsing with interest. Even the normally stoic Krath representatives were showing signs of emotion. The performance reached its peak as the crew demonstrated how humanity had adapted to space. Their movements showed zero-gravity combat training, but transformed into a dance. Laura's holograms created the illusion of solar flares and nebula around them, with the dancers moving through space like cosmic artists. On one platform, a young Arxian's colors had shifted to match the rhythm of the dance. Several Zetkari had linked their tentacles, their bioluminescence pulsing in time with the humans' movements. Without realizing it, the council members were becoming part of the performance. Next came the most daring part of their display. The formation split into 3 groups, each performing a different Earth military tradition. One group continued the haka, another performed precision rifle drill movements with holographic weapons, while the third demonstrated modern space warfare maneuvers. At first, it looked like chaos, but slowly, the 3 groups began to merge their movements. The ancient warrior calls blended with modern military cadences. The sharp lines of rifle drills flowed into the fluid movements of zero-gravity combat. Past and present, tradition and innovation, all moved as one. Laura's holograms reached their full potential, creating a sphere of light around the dancers. The audience could see Earth's history played out in glowing images, cave paintings of ancient hunters, medieval knights in shining armor, modern soldiers, and finally, starship crews. Each image flowed into the next, showing humanity's journey from Earth's caves to the stars. As the performance neared its end, the dancers came together in a final formation. Their movements slowed, becoming more graceful. The fierce expressions of the haka softened into looks of pride and hope. Laura's holograms showed scenes of peace, diplomatic meetings, scientific discoveries, first contact scenarios. The last movement was something entirely new, created just for this moment. The entire crew moved as one, their gestures combining elements from every human culture represented in their dance. Above them, Laura's holograms showed the Earth, then the solar system, then a galaxy full of possibilities. Commander Bennett stepped forward as the other dancers held their final pose. In the perfect silence that followed, she spoke words that Daniel Wright had found in an ancient peace treaty. "We bring our strength not to wage war, but to preserve peace. We offer our hands not to strike, but to help build." We share our warrior spirit not to frighten, but to show we will stand firm in defense of what is right. The holographic Earth above them transformed into the symbol of the Galactic Council, spinning slowly in the air. Then, with one final synchronized movement, the crew bowed to the council members. The chamber remained silent for 3 long seconds. Then, from the highest platform, the ancient Krath representative began to strike their ceremonial staffs together, their species equivalent of applause. The sound was quickly joined by various forms of appreciation from other species. The Zetkari glowed with colors of joy, the Arxians chimed their approval, and even the council leader's energy form pulsed with bright patterns of respect. Commander Bennett looked at her crew, seeing the exhaustion and triumph on their faces. They had done it. They had shown the council something they had never seen before: how humanity's warrior spirit could become art, how our fighting nature could be transformed into something beautiful. The council chamber, which hours ago had held beings worried about humanity's violent potential, now rang with alien sounds of approval. They had not just witnessed a war dance, they had seen humanity's heart, our ability to grow, to transform, to take our deepest traditions and reshape them into something new. As Ambassador Foster stepped forward to address the council again, Alice Bennett felt a deep pride in her crew and her species. They had gambled everything on this performance, betting that they could show the galaxy who humans really were, and they had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. The council chamber buzzed with excited conversation after the performance. Different species spoke in their native languages, their translator fields creating a symphony of overlapping voices. Commander Alice Bennett stood with her crew, all of them trying to catch their breath after the intense performance. Ambassador Mary Foster stepped forward as the council leader raised their mechanical hand for silence. The chamber grew quiet, the air thick with anticipation. "In all my cycles as council leader," the glowing being said, their voice resonating through the chamber, "I have never witnessed such a cultural demonstration. You have shown us something unexpected." The Krath elder spoke next, their deep voice thoughtful. "We saw in your dance the story of your species. You do not hide your warrior past. You transform it. This is wisdom we did not expect from such a young race." First speaker Zelix, the Arxian who had been so dismissive before, moved their crystalline form forward. Their colors shifted through patterns that the human translators said meant respectful reconsideration. The Arxian collective withdraws its objection to human participation in council affairs, Xylix announced, their chimes-like voice carrying clearly. "We were hasty in our judgment." Commander Bennett felt Laura Mitchell grab her arm in excitement. They had done more than just impress the council. They had changed minds. A Zetkari representative floated down to their level, all 4 eyes glowing with interest. "We have a request," they said, tentacles moving in elegant patterns. "Would humanity be willing to share these war dances with other species, as a form of cultural exchange?" Before Ambassador Foster could respond, other council members began adding their own requests. The chamber filled with voices asking about human traditions, military ceremonies, and the possibility of learning these dances themselves. The council leader raised their hand again, bringing order to the excited chamber. "It seems," they said, their energy form pulsing with amusement, "that humanity has not only proved their readiness for council membership, but has given us something new to consider." They turned to Commander Bennett. "Your species has demonstrated a remarkable ability. You take the fierce aspects of your nature and reshape them into art. This is a rare gift." The leader's next words made history. "We would like to invite Earth to join the Council's Defense Committee." A murmur of surprise ran through the chamber. The Defense Committee was one of the most prestigious groups in Council space, responsible for protecting peaceful species from hostile forces beyond Council borders. Ambassador Foster stepped forward, her diplomatic training keeping her voice steady despite her excitement. "We would be honored," she said, bowing deeply. "But may I ask why the Defense Committee specifically?" The Krath elder answered, striking their staffs on the platform for emphasis. You humans understand something vital: the difference between having warrior strength and using it wisely. The galaxy needs this wisdom. What followed was a flurry of diplomatic activity. Christopher Rogers found himself surrounded by representatives wanting to establish cultural exchange programs. Laura Mitchell was bombarded with questions about the holographic systems she had programmed. Even Daniel Wright was pulled into discussions about human military traditions. As the formal meetings began, Commander Bennett watched her crew interact with various alien species. A group of young Arctians was trying to learn the Haka movements, their crystalline forms creating beautiful light patterns as they stamped and shouted. Some Zetkari were attempting to replicate military drill formations with their floating tentacles. "You know what this means, don't you?" John Carter said, joining her at the observation point. "We'll be seeing alien war dances next year." Alice laughed at the thought. Maybe that was the point all along, showing them that even the things that make us different can bring us together. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. The Starweaver's crew found themselves teaching basic dance moves to curious alien diplomats. Laura Mitchell worked with council technicians to adapt her holographic programs for different species ceremonies. The station's database was updated to include detailed information about human cultural traditions. A week after the performance, as the Starweaver prepared to return to Earth with the good news, Commander Bennett stood in the council chamber one last time. The room looked different now. Some of the formal barriers between species platforms had been removed, allowing for easier interaction. "Commander," the council leader said, their energy form glowing warmly, "before you leave, there is one more thing. The council has voted to create a new position, Cultural Integration Advisor. We would be honored if Earth would provide the first representative for this role." Alice looked at Ambassador Foster, who nodded encouragingly. "We would be proud to help build these new bridges between our cultures," Alice replied. As they walked back to their ship, Christopher Rogers shook his head in amazement. "When we arrived, they thought we were too dangerous to join the council. Now they're creating new positions for us." "Because we showed them the truth," Ambassador Foster said. "We are warriors, but we're also artists, diplomats, and dreamers. We showed them humanity's whole heart, not just the parts they feared." The Starweaver's departure from the station was very different from their arrival. Council ships formed an honor guard, each one displaying light patterns that represented their species' version of a ceremonial farewell. The Arctians created a crystal formation that split light into rainbow patterns around the human ship. The Zetkari glowed in synchronized pulses that matched the rhythm of the war dance they had witnessed. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Commander Bennett looked at her crew on the bridge. They were tired but proud. They had come to the council hoping to prove humanity's worth, and they had done so much more. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them to prepare for a lot of visitors. I think we're about to become the galaxy's favorite dance teachers." The Starweaver jumped into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind a council forever changed by humanity's performance. In the years that followed, the story of the human war dance would be told in every corner of council space. But more importantly, it began a new tradition, one where species shared not just their knowledge and resources, but their hearts and cultures as well. And it all started because a group of humans decided to show the galaxy that even a war dance could become a dance of peace.